Hello, this is PubShorts episode 32. Start me up. We are talking about the startup that everybody is talking about, DeepSeek. That's our main story. But let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. KK, is Innovation Officer at Trinka and Inago, and I have with me Tony. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Keke. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. And would you please introduce yourself and explain what PubShorts is and where they can
Of
find?
course.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm Vice President for partnerships here at Inago. PubShort is a regular podcast where KK and I discuss the latest news stories relating to research, communication, research, publishing, and research actually as well. And you can find us on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Just search Inago PubShorts.
Yes, and if you are watching us on LinkedIn, you'll be watching it on the Inago social, YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon. And if you like the stuff that we discussed, Tony and I, please share the multiple episodes with your friends and family.
I
Uh,
think this is episode 31, isn't it?
it's 32, Tony. We are 32.
32.
Yes.
Wow, Lord.
So, first of all, this is a reference to a song that Tony, you're very familiar with, and you have seen many live performances of the band. So, you can introduce the song.
I won't say many live performances. I mean, the Rolling Stones are not a cheap band to go and see, but they are a great band to go and see. I haven't seen them for a long time now. It must be nearly 20 years since the last time I saw them, but they were always a good band. They're always a good band to see live.
Right, right. So this is
And
obviously
Starry Up tends to be, the opening song
right.
or one of the early songs in their set.
So as I said, we are talking about a startup called DeepSeek. So let's get right into the first story itself. So this is how I came to know a couple of days ago. This is a new story from Nature titled "China's Cheap Open AI Model DeepSeek Thrills Scientists." Now that's a sort of sensationalist headline. So anyway, so this is the first time I got to know about it. We are talking about DeepSeek's R1 rivaling OpenAI's, I think, O1. That's a main hint to this. So there are several stories, so I'll go one by one. And it is the cool part of this. It's obviously a startup from China. The whole deal is that they have spent way less money and GPU resources to build this model, and it is performing equally to the highest models offered by OpenAI and others. And Tony, the most important thing, it is an open source model that researchers can evaluate, and you can also have like smaller versions, locally deployable versions on it, on as small a computer as a gaming CPU, and make the magic happen. So
Yeah.
this is how I came to know about it. So what are your preliminary thoughts on this story in terms of the impact that it could have on research?
Well, I mean, it's not just on research. I mean, if what they claim is true, if the impact on the resources that are needed, that you need fewer power stations to support you, and therefore fewer trees get knocked down. So I think environmentally, this potentially is a very good thing. But the product's only been announced in the last few days, and it seems to be the only thing anybody wants to talk about at the moment.
Yes.
At least they're related. So I'm interested to see, how people like OpenAI and Google and Meta and others respond.
Right, and so it performs reasoning tasks at the same level as OpenAI's O1, and initial tests show strong results in chemistry, mathematics, and coding. And the one thing that I want to ask you is, it has been released under the MIT license that which allows researchers to study the model, but it's not fully open source as per this article because of the non-disclosure of training data. Now that's a concerning thing for me. So it's not fully open. So are you worried, considering that we are talking about research integrity, data integrity, research integrity in the context of China, and this is from China?
Well, maybe this is a lack of my knowledge in terms of lack of my understanding in terms of what is defined as open source.
Mm-hmm.
I always considered open source to be where the underlying code, is accessible, not necessarily the supporting materials that were used to create the code. So, are you saying that for it to be fully open source,
Yeah.
then users should be able to add their own
Yes.
tokens to it?
Yes. I
Well,
mean,
in that case, if that's the case, how can it be considered open source?
it is. That's why it's not fully open source as per this article, and we had another previous conversation about this. This is my argument. This is where I found the news. The whole deal is that, let's say OpenAI, its models are not open source. So that's it's sort of a black box, and we know that OpenAI has used different sorts of data that it does not legally have permission to use for training, right? So from that point of view, there are two aspects to it: one, the model itself, and the data that it has been trained on. In this case, the model is available for researchers to examine, but the data is, it's not clear what they have trained the data. And I've read, and maybe it will come up in this story, that OpenAI's responses, as in the sense ChatGPT responses, have been used to train DeepSeek. This is what I've learned. So let me go through some of the points in this. So this is a New York Times article called "How Chinese AI Startup DeepSeek is Competing with Silicon Valley Giants." So obviously this is another. I've tried to put in three representative articles. So they've used fewer chips than the American giants like Google and OpenAI, which is very cool. This raises questions about US chip export controls, and it's obviously DeepSeek is more efficient and competitive. And as per my reading, Tony, in the in the grass, I mean in the grapevine, I should say, on Reddit and everything, people who have used DeepSeek, especially not the chat interface, which is what I have used so far. People who have actually used it to perform computational tasks say that it writes probably the best code that they have ever seen an LLM write. So that's a
And
very
this is R1. This is R1.
yes, it is. And obviously O3, remember we talked about O3 being very, very good and everything. So that's another thing. Then there are some startling numbers. I hope there are some infographics to show. But anyway, they've used about 6 million, which is compared, it's like 100 to something compared to what yeah, the OpenAI company has used. And the whole, this article talks about the open source nature of this being a very important thing. So cheaper and almost as good. And to be fair, look, this is a truth in all forms of technology. One good example is mobile phones. We've got,
Another good example, if you think back far enough, and I'm old enough to remember, is the impact the IBM PC had on the mainframe market.
right.
It's in 1980. The mainframe, I won't say it disappeared, but kind of, computing was the domain of, the man in a lab coat sitting in the basement, who has his or her degree in, it was his mostly at the time, I suppose, in computing or computer science. And now then the launch of the PC meant it was available to anybody and everybody in their home, in their office, in their desk, in their cabin, in the woods, whatever.
Right.
So it's that kind of, I think, potentially that sort of analogy.
So we are talking about this maybe a week after the story broke, and this is where we are right now. At least this is the main thing that everybody is talking about stock markets after the announcement or the revelation of DeepSeek. So this is an NPR news article titled "U.S. Stock Market Tumbles." Stock markets tumble as investors worry about DeepSeek. So US markets are down, Tony. Investors are worried about DeepSeek and what it could impact in terms of the US based technology and artificial intelligence firms. Now, it is the top app. You can see that somebody is looking at DeepSeek on their phone. You can download it, and it is the top download. It has surpassed ChatGPT in the App Store, at least on
Have
App.
you tried downloading it recently? I couldn't get in. There
No,
seemed to be
so
demand.
I've tried this on a computer, on a Windows computer, and it seemed to give me, this is the chat interface again. It has given me some sort of a response. I saw a detailed sort of breakdown on its responses, and there were some bias related issues or let's say, I mean, it does not give you answers, the accurate answers on questions related to China, for example, and politics and socio-political things. So it's been trained to give such answers. This is what I have done. So now major tech firms, Tony, are already reporting results and in dropping stock prices and everything. And
Yes,
Nvidia's,
so Nvidia lost the biggest
yes.
amount one day of any company in the history of the stock market.
Right. So it has, I mean, I think the only two companies that have at least not shown remarkable loss are Apple, which has been a slow, in terms of artificial intelligence. And as far as I remember, Microsoft, but we'll have to look at the charts. But my question to you, Tony, what are the repercussions and what are you doing about your Nvidia stocks?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have any Nvidia stocks, so the answer to that is nothing. Um, uh, and I'm just fascinated to see how this is going to evolve. But as I said in an earlier conversation, how the people like OpenAI and Meta and Google and others are going to respond to this, because it's groundbreaking. It's actually it's potentially disruptive.
Yeah, we'll keep following the story. As per my readings, this is as disruptive as how ChatGPT was when it was announced 2 years ago. So let's see how the story evolves. Now we this is an exclusively AI episode, I think, because there's nothing else. And this is this interesting story about Anthropic's CEO talking about what they are announcing. So this article is titled "Anthropic CEO says Claude may match some of ChatGPT's key features this year." So this is let's say dated compared to the DeepView story, but anyway, let's read my notes. This their Claude model. I think I'll ask you this question in terms of what your preference is. It's improving always, and the CEO suggests that AI could surpass human intelligence by 2027. Now, I would just keep, I would take that with a pinch of salt. He emphasized
Yeah.
the importance of safe AI and regulation. And the good news, or the interesting news that I found from this article, is that Claude or Anthropic is in partnership with Google and Amazon in terms of development. And generally, it highlights the competitive nature. We have talked about O1, O3, and now R1 from DeepSeek. Now Claude is coming up with its own sort of innovation. So, do you have a preferred, let's say, chat-based LLM, Tony? And if there is, what is it?
Well, by preferred, I suppose my only response is what do I have access to, and the only thing I'm using at the moment is ChatGPT.
Right, right.
I think it's for whatever it's on my phone. I preferred in that it's the only one I've installed so far. What do you have a preferred model?
For different purposes, I think ChatGPT, ChatGPT 4.0 is my default baseline good model with the web search. Now it gives you
Yeah.
very good, research summaries to whatever I'm searching. But Perplexity is for research, and 4.0 is probably the competitor. But for writing and critical analysis and improving my writing, Claude is the best. And I would totally recommend it. I don't know if I like Gemini, even though sometimes I run out of my token and limits on all the other things. So sometimes I use Gemini in those cases, but Gemini can integrate with Google Docs, so that's an advantage. So I use everything that I can use. Now I have to start using DeepSeek as well to see how it can it can improve my workflow. So
Yeah,
anyway, so
it makes your life interesting.
yes. And now Perplexity has another announcement. So it has launched an assistant for Android. This is a TechCrunch news story. So let me just read my notes. So the assistant can perform multi-app tasks like booking rides and searching for songs, in the sense within the Android environment. It uses reasoning, search, and apps with to help with daily tasks. Now, I haven't personally, downloaded it and used it, but I'm thinking with my experience with Perplexity, with whatever I've heard about it, about researchers actually using Perplexity as one of the main things for scientific, literature reading and everything. I'm going to think that this is going to be really good, and the assistant seems to maintain context across actions such as researching and booking restaurants. Now, between the operator thing, which we'll just talk about, and Perplexity's agent. Tony, would you have a preference if you were to sort of choose between Perplexity and, let's say, OpenAI?
Well, to prepare for this podcast, I decided to download both the apps to see if I had a preference between the two. But as both of them were asking me, one was asking me for $200, the other one was asking me for I think it was $10 a week or something, but maybe something like that. I didn't go any further forward, so maybe I can delay my answer till I get a chance to have a look at both of them.
But
I think
yeah,
isn't the concept interesting though, that that we're now at a point where uh, your mobile devices, your devices can actually act almost proactively on your behalf,
right.
rather than just giving it a set of instructions.
Right. The thing, I think I would probably like to help you, because I do not pay any other AI sort of brand other than OpenAI, because I want to access the ChatGPT Plus and its API for whatever things that I'm doing. So I think you should be able to make a free account and use these basic things. If I'm not sure if Perplexity's assistant requires you to have a Pro or a Plus subscription. I am aware that ChatGPT's operator requires a what is it? Pro subscription, which is a lot more expensive than the Plus subscription $20
Yeah.
thing that we are talking about. So we are talking about that directly. So this is, again, we talked about operator, I think, in a previous episode. So this is an article from the New York Times. It talks about the operator. So it's titled "OpenAI Unveils AI Agent that can use websites on its own." which is
Mm.
great. I mean, this it'll make things easier. So it operates much like a human navigating websites and taking actions. During a demo, it booked a restaurant and bought groceries. The operator tool is obviously not perfect, and it requires user credentials and the pro subscriptions and everything. So the thing that I want to ask you, I do not know if you have followed the what is it, Rabbit device, the flop from last year. It's a small device. Basically, it is supposed to speak to you and take images and help you sort of book cabs and book
No,
a.
I didn't follow that.
Yeah, so everybody is now going that way. That was a physical sort of a hardware. I mean, in the sense, it's a device that had this capability, but it was a flop because it would not do anything properly. And now all the AIs are making their own agentic sort of workflows and everything. Very interesting.
What do you think the implications of these agentic AIs are within the space that we operate in within sort of scholarly publishing?
It'll dramatically improve accuracy is what I'm predicting, and we ourselves are working on improving the accuracy of AI based solutions in terms of, let's say, manuscript screening as well as peer review, as well as for what we are hoping to develop is many applications in the field of research integrity, so that we can detect any malicious intent in the content, or make interrelationships between whatever the author has stated in the manuscript, and flag it to authors as well as publishers. So a lot, basically, improved accuracy and less dependency on humans, but that does not mean that no dependency. Humans will always be in the loop, and at least as of now. And if everything, all the research integrity concerns will be partially allayed, and the numbers will slowly improve. That's my prediction for agentic workflows in publishing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's watch this space.
Yeah, and a couple of quick hits. We are only talking about AI. This one is a very interesting thing. We talked about AI's artificial general intelligence and super intelligence, and O3, or the Open AI model, is what it's reported to be the best so far, and we have to see now. DeepSeek's R3 or something, whatever that they come up with, will be better than this. So this story, it's titled "When AI Passes This Test, Look Out." This is the actual what is it? The singularity movement that we are talking about. It's a test basically. It's called Humanity's Last Exam. That's a wonderful, wonderful Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov title.
I was going to say the Ray Bradbury thing. The first thing I thought of when I saw that headline was the 9 billion names of God, the story of Bradbury.
Yeah, so this test, wonderfully named test, is designed to be so tough that no AI system can pass it yet. Okay, that's a very key thing. It cannot pass it yet. Now, the test includes 3,000 challenging questions from various fields, and it's created with the help of Center for AI Safety and Scale AI. And so far, as in the results of our results by Google's Gemini as well as OpenAI's models have been poor, and the whole idea is to keep AI's capabilities in check, as it's improving very rapidly. So I'm very interested now, Tony, to see how DeepSeek will perform with humanity's last exam. So my question to you: predict, as in look into your crystal ball, which is on your left, I think, and predict when will an AI system beat this test.
Let me just ask ChatGPT and see what it says.
But
I,
jokes apart, what's your answer?
it's a scary prospect, I've got to say. We particularly in light of some of the announcements coming out of the US in terms of deregulation. I think for it to work, there has to be that human oversight. Otherwise, none of us really can predict what will happen next.
Well, we'll wait and see. And the last thing, I said in the last episode that we will be covering a lot of stories coming out of the Trump administration. So this is titled, it's from CNN Business. It's titled "Trump Announces a 500 billion AI Infrastructure Investment in the US." Now, this what was interesting was that obviously it's coming from Trump and the administration, and it is led by OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle. It is, I think, look, this came before DeepSeek, right? In the chronology of events, and it is to consolidate the US's, I guess, a position in the AI race. That's how I would claim it. So this is
Yeah.
called, Tony. The coolest thing about this is the name. It's called Project Stargate, or it's just called Stargate. I think Stargate is one of my favorite science fiction franchises, and I believe you've got a personal connection. Maybe you can talk about this after this. So it aims to create 100,000 jobs in the US and focuses on building AI infrastructure like data centers. And the initial investment is a mind boggling 100 billion. Now, this is important in the context that we just talked about Deep View, which is about like 1% of all the cost that OpenAI seems to have needed to build a model similar to it. So it is seen as a project crucial for US to lead in AI. Now, your thoughts considering like I put this in, it came to into our agenda before the DeepSeek articles popped up. So, what are your thoughts in the context of DeepSeek now coming in, and overall Project Stargate itself?
Uh, yes, good. I don't. I mean, Stargate is supported by three of the biggest companies in the world: Oracle, OpenAI, SoftBank. I think, and there are other organizations involved as well. So they're clearly serious about creating this infrastructure. And the US and obviously Trump is very keen to make sure that the US has leadership in this particular space. As you say, however, if the Chinese version can be created, or the Chinese AI can be created at like 1/20th of the cost,
Mm-hmm.
how replicable is that? Is this infrastructure going to be in other markets? And therefore, how unique will it be?
Right. So we have to anyway. So this is Stargate thing. And have you watched Stargate? Any of the Stargate?
I have, yeah. I mean, a old friend of mine I haven't spoken to for a long time, but David Arnold is a soundtrack composer. He wrote the score for the film, and I think for the first series, if I remember rightly.
Well, that sounds very interesting, but there is something even more interesting, Tony, in your life tomorrow, and I believe you're taking a leave to celebrate it. What are your plans?
Yeah, I have another birthday. I'm 21 again,
Oh my God.
and my wife and I will be spending a few romantic days along the beaches of South Wales.
Wonderful.
So it'll be cold and brisk, but at least I can use my new Fitbit to find out how far I'm walking.
Well, if people want to know how far you've walked, how can they do it? Are you on social media? Do you put these statistics?
I'm not going to tell them. I'm not telling anyone. I'm not even telling my wife. So no, they can contact you if you want to find out more about Inago. Please visit inago.com. If you want to see this episode or previous episodes of PubShorts, please go to the PubShorts channel on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Or you can find us on LinkedIn as well. You can contact KK and me again via LinkedIn, and you can also contact me directly at tonyo@inago.com if you've got any ideas for future topics for PubShorts.
And that's very, very true. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, as I mentioned, and share the content with everybody that you think that they will relate to the content. And on behalf of everybody, including all of the audience, Tony, we wish you a very, very happy 20th birthday tomorrow.
21st.
All right. You have the
more than the first time.
All right, I thought you're going down in terms of age. So that's what I thought.
Yeah, my hair unfortunately isn't, but I am.
All right, so that brings us to the end of PubShorts episode 32. Start Me Up, and again, on behalf of everybody who helps us bring such content, and on behalf of the about to turn 21 Tony O'Rourke, this is Dr. KK signing off for PubShorts. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, Tony.
See you again.